like to call the meeting to order and ask that we have a roll call of the board members.
Okay.
Mr.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Roscoe? Present. Mrs. Paez?
President.
Mrs. Cameron?
Present.
Mr. Kroll present.
Okay, we do have a quorum. Now would stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, the symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures.
Thank you. Okay, I would entertain an approval. First, I'll ask the superintendent, do you have any changes?
No.
Okay. Ask for a motion for approval of our agenda.
I'll make that motion. I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Would you call the vote, please?
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Orozco? Yeah. Mrs. Paez?
Yes.
Mrs. Cameron?
Yes,
Mr. Kroll, yes.
the motion carries. This time we have public comment, but we did not have anyone sign up, so we will go on to our reports. If you're not been here before and you come for public comment, there's always a paper in the back and you should sign up on that before the meeting comes. That's just a little information if someday you want to speak. The NEA charity and is it April? Abril.
I don't like speaking. Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Chavez. So this month, NEA Deming, or rather my compadres, did National Night Out and gave away some school supplies and some candy and did face painting. So they were really excited. And then they plan on also participating in the duck races and the parade floats or the back of a truck. You know, the easy way. So they're getting out there and enjoying things. We've continued helping and supporting employees. In fact, I just got some great news from an employee who helped her to feel, comfortable when asked about some things with her salary. And she got the news today that it's been fixed. And so she's over the moon ecstatic. And so we've continued doing that. And that's about all we've got going on. And Abril will start school visits in 3 weeks. So yay. And thank you for your consideration for that, allowing us to buy some of that time so that she can also go and do every school and do a really good job of really getting in there and finding out what's interesting for people or their concerns.
And interesting.
Yeah. Some people find interesting. Any questions?
Any questions? I have a question. From your perspective, has the beginning of the year started?
Yes,
Well-
I know at the high school level, particularly for me, the year has started a lot easier. Last year with the 10 days that were school but not school,
Mhm.
it was a very rough start of the school because we didn't have students always taking it seriously.
Right.
And so this year we really have had that, I know at the high school level. And from what I understand, most of the schools, it's rolling along pretty good.
Great, thank you. All right, our next is RBC Capital Markets presentation. Regina Casina at our close.
Regina Gaisina.
Hello.
Good evening, Madam President, board members, superintendent. I will share my screen as I'm joining you tonight to report on the results of another bond sale we have just finalized for the districts, and I would need a share enabling by folks so I can share my screen.
You should be able to now.
Would you be able to do another version of me? I'm sorry, I had to log in from 2 computers.
So can you reclaim your host? Reclaim host down in the bottom, down here on the right. And then go up to the other Regina. There you go.
Thank you.
Make host, don't remove. Or we'll start all over again. How does that work?
All right, perfect.
Bless you.
So as we have finalized this $3 million sale, which is the last installment of your last GEO authorization that we have placed with New Mexico Finance Authority, those bonds will mature in 2042, and we have received a final interest rate of 2.8%. Just for comparison, right now, 10-year Treasury bonds are trading at 4.2%. So the district has locked in an interest rate significantly 1.4% lower than a AAA rated government bond with a 10-year maturity. And we're here talking about a 20-year maturity bond. The district will pay $1 million in interest over the life of the borrowing. The bonds are callable, and we plan on closing the bonds on the 9th. The final maturity schedule is here in front of you. The district did qualify and receive $300,000 through New Mexico Finance Authority at 0% interest rates through their disadvantaged funding program, meaning that the district's median household income is below the state average. So that would qualify you for that disadvantaged funding, which definitely was a huge help in reducing the overall cost and also the liability on the taxpayer. So in the back of the presentation, we do have some additional information on the markets and where you at. But as I have mentioned, the interest rates keep climbing up, and the district was able to secure the borrowing at a much lower rate than what you would see going through public markets right now. And I would be happy to answer any questions regarding this bond sale or any other matters related to the financing, but wanted to say congratulations. This is a very successful result, and we're very happy given current market situation.
Indeed.
It's very good.
Many times we hear the other way. Are there any questions or comments that you have? I guess there's not any. We're just overwhelmed by the good news that you've brought us and helped us get to that point.
Well, thanks again, everyone. And again, congratulations to the district on another successful bond sale.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, we're now on item 7, our consent agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I make that motion.
I'll
Yes.
second that.
We have a motion and a second. Would you call the roll, please?
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Roscoe? Yes. Mrs. Paez?
Yes.
Mrs. Cameron?
Yes.
Mr. Crowe, yes.
Okay, the motion carries. We have approved the consent agenda. Now we're down to item 8, action items. The first one, Superintendent Chavez, consideration and approval of out-of-town state travel for FFA to attend the National Convention in Indianapolis, Indiana in November.
Yes, and so Madam President, members of the board, we have the FFA team, and I think they're going to share their project that qualified them to, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Awesome.
Well, thank you, Madam President, board members, superintendent. These two girls, they are freshmen at the high school this year, but when they competed last year, they competed this last summer. They were 8th grade students at Red Mountain, and they worked for about a month, 2 months on coming up with an agri-science project that they had to do their own. They had to write a paper about it. They had to do research, things that worked, things that didn't work. And they went to state convention in Las Cruces, and they competed against about 10 other projects. And at the state level, they got a gold rating, which if you get a gold rating, you get submitted to National FFA. They had to go to the school this summer and work out some kinks on their paperwork and then resubmit it to National FFA. And a National FFA board chooses the top 10 projects in that category from the country, and they were one of the top 10.
Wow,
So-
congratulations.
Can you go on? Could you tell us the ladies' names?
Desmira Sagan, and I'm Elizabeth Thompson.
Okay, great, thank you.
So we will be traveling to Indianapolis, Indiana. If we get approval, we'll be flying out October 31st and return November 5th. The National FFA Convention, they have different sessions. There's about 45 to 50,000 FFA members all the way in the country. Puerto Rico students, they have FFA over there. So it's a great convention to go to meet other FFA members across the country.
What about your expenses? Are those paid?
So last year, we fundraised and we were very blessed with this community. We have some funds that we can use. I talked to Mr. Bernie Chavez with the athletic department, and he said that we can maybe try and figure something out if we need a little help. Mr. Don Kyle, he owns Cattleman's Processing in Deming Prime. He talked to me, he was one of our supporters at our pie auction last year, and he talked to me at the end of last year if he could, if we needed any support in any way. So I gave him a phone call last week, just kind of told him how hard these girls worked and how much of an honor it really is. And he wants to have a meeting with me, and he says he can help with some expenses that we need. So,
Right,
yes.
right. Well, congratulations, and when you come back, we'll hear about a trip.
So do you want to tell us about your project?
So for our project, we purchased bags and bulk produce. We wanted to see which had the most growth on the skin on the outside, and we swabbed it. And when we got our results, we realized that bulk produce had more bacteria on the outer layer than bag produce did.
And so we're thinking about improving this project for either next year or just in the future for somebody else to take on. And we can see which bacteria is good versus bad. We did use petri dishes for this project, and we incubated them and we counted all of our colonies. And we learned a lot about the process that it takes to sanitize fruit and all of the outside contaminants that can end up influencing the amount of bacteria growth on it. And so by furthering this project, we can explore a little bit more good versus bad bacteria, or which points the fruit and veggies come in more contact with bacteria. And we looked into how growing environments like greenhouses versus field grown, or what kind of grocery store you buy your fruit from, how that influences the bacteria growth. And we also noticed
That with citrus fruits, they seem to have less bacteria growth on the outside rather than the rock fruits. So that's something we also wanted to like furthermore with our experiment to see whether that had something to do with it, not just whether it's bad or bulk produce.
Interesting.
That's very interesting.
Yeah. Looks like a lot of work. Turn around and show them all the work. Oh, dear. Well, congratulations and good luck.
Congratulations.
When you come back, you can bring your trophy and
For sure.
to show us. Okay. At this time, I would entertain a motion to approve the out-of-state travel for FFA to attend the National Convention in Indianapolis, Indiana, November the 1st through the 4th, 2023.
I'll make that motion. I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Would you call for the vote, please?
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Orozco? Yes. Mrs. Paez?
yes.
Mrs. Cameron?
Yes.
Mr. Crowe, yes.
Okay, the motion carries. Congratulations, and we look forward to a follow-up. Okay,
So Madam President, members of the board, we also have our Skills USA going to be traveling, and Mr. Ortiz is here as a sponsor to share what they are going to be traveling for.
This is also Ashley Lopez. She's the Vice President of the Skills USA total chapter of the whole state.
well, of the
Yes.
state,
Yes.
Welcome. Thank you.
Yes.
Congratulations.
President, members of the board, Superintendent Chavez. I come before you today, asking for approval, giving you a little information about our Washington Leadership Training Institute. I attended last year as a new advisor with Mary Anderson. I received my new advisor training there, was inducted into the national education team, so I now serve as a national judge. So every spring we have a leadership conference where the students compete in leadership and skill competitions in Albuquerque. This year it was held at CNM, which is a very nice facility to be with them. We did all skills that were through the trades that we offered through our CT programs. Culinary arts is my specialty, so I train my students alongside, NRA standards, NSF standards. We were very successful. We had silver medalists, bronze medalists, but no gold medalists this year.
I was gonna say, it'll be different this year.
We did qualify out of our 33 active members this past spring. 8 of them qualified gold medals to go to nationals in Atlanta, Georgia. We had a team of 3 placed in the top 10 in the nation for public speaking on American spirit. So, we're improving, we're growing. Washington Leadership Training Institute is full of advisor trainings for myself, student training, and for our new advisor, Christian Flores, he'll be receiving his new advisor training as well. He took over for Mary Anderson, and he's doing a great job with the Healthcare Science Institute. Some of the activities and things that we do at Washington, we'll spend a day on Capitol Hill. We'll be doing a tour. We'll be making appointments with hopefully a senator, House of Representatives from the state of New Mexico. And that's a day of advocacy that we're just really, showing what we're doing in New Mexico. We'll be traveling with other state officers from Hobbs High School, the state director from CNM, and also the state advisor coordinator, Jason Hayes, from Albuquerque as well. I had a great experience last time. I had never been to Washington, DC. It was a great experience for myself. Mary Anderson, of course, I've been many times. She showed me the ropes, and I'm full force into skills now because of that. Some of the things we do as well, we visit the Arlington National Cemetery and they wreath of the soldier. Students as well get to celebrate and do fun activities at the Leesburg, Virginia headquarters. So we don't just stay in Washington, DC, we're traveling throughout Virginia, DMV area.
How many students are you taking this year?
Ashley is our lone.
You're the lone student this year, competing and everything, right? Or this is just, well,
Right now, I'm gonna go to the Washington.
just the leadership
Leadership
institute,
training,
right?
but this past summer, I was in nationals in Atlanta, Georgia.
Yes.
And I competed as a student officer and I loved it. It has been my second year going to nationals.
Good.
And it was just a fulfilling experience to get to meet again with my peers or other state officers, because you really get to learn about their culture, or like the benefits of New Mexico, or the different languages they speak, or how important it is to speak Spanish for myself. I was like one of the few that were in the Spanish there. It also they're not very good. So the skills USA, I was able to advocate with CTE now, and was passionate about it. And I realized that CTE is not only nursing because that's my profession, it's culinary arts, it's law enforcement, it's even firefighting, ophthalmology, it's all around us. And without CTE, we wouldn't be structured as we are.
Excellent. I had that opportunity when I was senior in high school, and it really opened my eyes to what could be.
So traveling on our travel roster is our Vice President of Skills USA in New Mexico, Ashley Lopez, and myself as the Deming High School Head Advisor, Christian Flores, who will be receiving his new induction for advising. And then Janelle Sanchez would be the female sponsor, female chaperone. She's the state director of students.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Any other
Exciting.
questions?
Questions? You're on the skills you listen. Thank you. Well, if not, we would I'd entertain a motion for approval for out-of-state travel for Skills USA to attend the Skills USA Leadership Institute in Washington, DC, September the 23rd through the 27th.
I make that motion?
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Would you take the count, please?
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Orozco? Yes. Mrs. Paez?
Yes.
Mrs. Cameron?
Yes,
Mrs. Hernandez?
Yes.
Mr. Kroll, yes.
the motion carries. And we look forward to when you come back and to hear all about your trip.
Thank you. Okay, Madam President, members of the board, we're on item C. The discussion and potential action related to the nepotism rule under NMSA 1978-22-5-6A to permit the son-in-law of the superintendent to be eligible for initial employment by Deming Public Schools in a high-need position. Under the law, the initial employment of any relative, close relative to the superintendent cannot be done without the waiver, which is allowed under the law regarding initial employment of a relative. And we currently have, just to give you some information, and we also have our attorney on Zoom if we have any specific legal questions that you want to ask. If there's anything that goes into details regarding personnel matters, we can also go into closed session. You can decide to go into closed session and have a discussion privately and then come out and act upon the request. But just so we are clear about our openings, we have 47 currently positions, total positions open. 25 of those are in teaching, 9 are in special education, and 16 are in general education. And they range from elementary, we have in special education, we have 5 positions open in special education in elementary, and we have 3-4 in secondary. So we definitely have high needs. We have Mrs. Trejo is here. She can answer questions related to the applicants that we receive. And Ms. Sandoval is here also to respond to any questions you might have related to how the interview process was handled. I do want to say publicly, I didn't even know he quit his job and applied for it. I found out and said, whoa, I can't approve this. We have to bring it to a public session. We have to have an open conversation and an open vote about it. And we need to be transparent about it. And I also do want to say he's a mechanical engineer, has a degree in mechanical engineering. He is also bilingual. And I think the fact that we have a man willing to go into special education and be part of that group and be willing to want to teach that. He told me he applied for one job, and that was the special education job, because he just had a heart for it. He felt like that's what he was supposed to do. And while I understand there are positions throughout the district, the middle school, intermediate school picked him up first. Actually, he only applied for that position. So if there's any questions, we're happy to answer what we can. If there's anything that becomes a personnel matter, we'll need to go into executive session. Carla Schultz is our attorney. Thank you for being here, Carla. And
hi, everyone.
I don't know if there's anything you want to add to that, Carla, or you're just standing by for any questions.
I'm happy to answer any questions, but I will just kind of offer a quick overview in support of what you've said. Under our state nepotism laws, the superintendent is the one who has authority to employ, obviously, administrators and other employees. And under the law, the superintendent cannot approve the initial employment in any capacity for the school district of prohibited relatives, and that's generally spouse, parent, sibling, sister, so I got sisters already, daughters, sons, and then in-laws. That applies to in-laws as well. So not just parents, but father and mother-in-law, etc. And that's of a member of the school board or the superintendent. So that's where the prohibition comes in that's applicable to the board members. So all of those relatives, none of those relatives can be employed by the school district. There's 2 exceptions. One is if these individuals were already working for the school district and had been continuously employed by the district before the board member came on as the board or before the superintendent was hired. That's okay because that's not the initial employment of that person. That person was already working there before the official, the superintendent or board member took their position. There's also another exception, and that's where the board can waive that nepotism rule for a family member of the superintendent. So that waiver doesn't apply for board member relatives, but there is one for superintendent relatives.
Thank you.
Okay. Are there any questions or comments from the board?
I'd like to make a motion that we go into closed session to discuss limited personal matters as permitted under section 1015(1)(h)(2) of the New Mexico Open Meetings Act, specifically so the board may discuss the possible hiring and assignment of a specific individual candidate for public employment, should the board waive the nepotism rule and initially employ such family members of the superintendent.
We have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, would you call for the vote?
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Orozco? Yes. Mrs. Paez?
Yes.
Mrs. Cameron?
Yes,
Mrs. Hernandez?
Yes.
Mr. Crowe, yes.
okay. All right, we will now go into closed session.
Do you want me to join you?
What?
I think so.
We will, and then we might.
Pick me out.
Yeah, well, we won't kick you out.
Carla will call you on the phone.
Oh, to come out of closed session?
I'll need a motion to come to closed session.
Okay,
I make a motion to come out of closed session.
I'll second.
okay. Would you call for the vote, please?
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Orozco? Yes. Mrs. Paez?
Yes.
Mrs. Cameron?
Yes,
Mrs. Hernandez?
Yes.
Mr. Crowe, yes.
we are back in session. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you.
Uh, We're on item D now,
No,
or
We're
we
still
have a
on C.
motion? Do we have a motion
yes,
on item C?
yes, I'll make a motion that the board waives the nepotism requirement for the district so that we can employ a family member of the superintendent pursuant to NMSA 1978-22-5-6A.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion is second. Would you call for the vote, please?
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Orozco? Yes. Mrs. Paez?
Yes.
Mrs. Cameron?
Yes,
Mrs. Hernandez?
Yes.
Mr. Crowe, yes.
the motion carried. Thank you. And thank you for your patience.
Yes.
Now we're on item D, consideration and appointment of board members to the District Finance Committee.
So Madam President, members of the board, when we did our training with the attorney during the board retreat, and she shared all the different components of your responsibilities and related to being a board member, one of those items was related to the District Finance Committee. And specifically, it reads, each local school board shall appoint, not can or will, it is shall appoint at least 2 members of the board as a finance subcommittee to assist the board in carrying out its budget and finance duties. And then it gave a list of those duties. And so at this time, we're asking that the board go ahead and name those 2 or 3. You can name more than 2, but it has to be at least 2 members. And we will, and the finance subcommittee also complies with the Open Meetings Act. So there's some big responsibilities. So just ask you guys to go ahead and do that.
Yes. So we're asking for 3 members or 2. This has to
I
be
believe
2.
it has to be 2. It can be as many as you want.
Okay, so do we have anyone on the board that would like to serve on the District Finance Committee?
I'll serve. I'll serve.
I'm willing to do that too.
Okay,
Is there a set meeting time? Do we know when it is?
Miss
Maybe I should ask that
Doyle.
first.
I'll let you answer that question.
Good evening, members of the board, Madam President, Superintendent. Yes, we are doing meetings. I'm trying to remember a little bit. what we talked about
Quarterly.
We're gonna do them quarterly, and I believe that we're going to try and do them also the Tuesday before the board meeting. If that works for everybody, that's what we had historically
what?
done, but we can meet however.
Tuesday before the board meeting.
now is
This
this,
week before,
Okay.
Oh.
Not every month, right?
no, quarterly.
Okay.
is this the one that I was serving on?
No, ma'am.
That was something else.
That's the
That's the art.
Audit, thank you. I was trying to think, I didn't remember.
We'll talk about that one next.
Does anyone else want to
We're
be?
saving the best to last. Okay, so tell me again, Bobby
Amy
and,
and Danny.
Mhm.
Okay.
okay, good.
So then I guess the motion would be to appoint them and then the action.
I guess I could do it now.
Yeah.
I make a motion that we approve Mr. Orozco, Mrs. Hernandez, and Mr. Crowe to be on the finance committee.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Would you call for the vote, please?
Yes, Mr. Orozco?
Yes.
Mrs. Paez?
Yes.
Mrs. Hernandez?
Yes.
Mrs. Cameron?
Yes,
Mr. Crowe, yes.
thank you. All right, now,
So the next item, Madam President, members of the board, is regarding the audit committee process with possible action. I think we may not have action as well. So the audit committee was another area that we learned that it said, except as otherwise provided in this section, each local school board shall appoint an audit committee that consists of 2 board members, 1 volunteer member who is a parent of a student attending the school district, and 1 volunteer member who has experience in accounting or financial matters. Because we're in the middle of the audit, we're looking at actually re-upping the audit committee in January, and we wanted to bring this as a discussion point in terms of the process, and then possibly vote on what that process is. One of the recommendations I'll just make is that we generally kind of help you guys do that. It says you all have to do this. So if you want to just discuss, like, what do you want us to do? How can we recruit? And then we can vote on what that process will be for determining who will be on the audit committee, and then you can, or apply for it. And then in January, you would actually vote on who was selected. So really, it's about discussing the process right now and voting on that process.
Historically, what's the process been and has it worked?
So historically, we put out a call basically to people in the community. Right now, the audit committee consists of Laura Holguin is our community member who knows finance and accounting. And we really just put it out there for people to apply. A similar process let me go back to who it is. Same with the parent. We've always just done kind of a call or put it in our newsletter, or and just ask, and that sort of thing to recruit.
I think we need to put, has that process worked in the past? Is there anything that?
It has worked. I think we've gotten some good people. We do meet, the big thing for the audit committee is for the RFP for the auditors. And then as the superintendent mentioned, we're in the middle of the audit, so we're meeting monthly with the auditor just to kind of go over where we are, if they have any concerns, things like that. There's not nearly the commitment on the audit committee as it is for the finance.
Right.
I mean, if it's not broke.
Yeah.
Okay. So then we'll use that process if there's any ideas or suggestions that you have. And then what we can do, I guess what we need to know then is probably in December, we need to have identified people that have applied to be on the audit committee. And then in January, you can,
The board.
you can approve them. If we have several, we'll come up with the process for you all to screen out and decide.
And I'm hoping we have several. We need people.
We
need to
do,
put it out
we
there.
do.
We need
It's
to
an
put it out
interesting process
there. Yeah, to see. I'm hoping we get.
for most of us.
So what I'm understanding, Leslie, is there is an audit committee now.
Yeah.
And so we'll continue to serve, and then in December or January, we will revisit the audit committee.
Correct.
As I understand it, and that actually, the timing for that works well because we will have completed this year.
Right.
Correct. So I don't know that there's really any kind of action that needs to be
It
done.
doesn't,
I think it
yeah.
really turned out to be just more of a discussion of how we wanted to keep moving forward.
Okay, thank you. All right.
So then, Madam President, members of the board, the next item for discussion is, again, at the board retreat, there was presentation on the superintendent's evaluation. So on item F, it's a discussion and possible approval of the superintendent evaluation process. As you know, in the past, it was, and being, some of you were newer to the board, it was kind of handed to you, and really you get to design it, and then we work together. And what was recommended is that you could work with legal. A couple of you could be on a committee to work with legal to redevelop the process, and then develop the format using the standards and that sort of thing as well. And so we wanted to bring that back to to the public, so that it was basically a discussion, and you guys voted on how you wanted to move forward.
And would this just be board, or would this be others?
This was for, I think the recommendation from the attorney was that you consider two board members to work with legal to build that process the way that you all felt was valuable.
Right.
And then I would join you later. Once you have the process, we would talk through it and then set the goals and that sort of thing.
I'd like to be on that.
I think that makes sense. You're the President.
I'm also willing to. be-
Okay.
Okay, so then I think for this one, we do need a motion to basically set up the subcommittee. You don't want more than two, because then we have to do open meetings.
Right.
So two is plenty. And then, so the motion would be for the people to serve on it and then, engage with the attorney to give you basically the authority to work on behalf of your board constituents, to work with the attorney to bring a draft before.
So I'll make a motion that we initiate a new subcommittee for the superintendent evaluation process, and that President Cameron and Ms. Paez be the members of that subcommittee
Okay, we,
and are authorized to work with the attorney on behalf of the board.
Thank you.
Sorry.
No, I forgot.
that's why we have you here. You know the words.
Well, it's a little late.
Okay, any discussion?
No, I think Bobby seconded it.
Oh, you did? I'm sorry.
ma'am.
Okay, would you call for the vote, please?
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Orozco? Yes. Mrs. Paez?
Yes.
Mrs. Cameron?
Yes.
Mrs. Hernandez?
Yes.
Mr. Crowe, yes.
Okay, the motion carries.
And now we have item G, Madam President, and members of the board, and Ms. Doyle will present for us.
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Chavez, before you do have a number of bars that I'm requesting approval on. The first one is for an increase. We did receive a grant extending equity into the digital workforce at Early College High School. This $10,000 is specifically to purchase computers at Early College High School. The number 6, 7, and I believe even 8 are all doing the same things. I'm gonna go over them, not necessarily individually, but what we are doing is moving money to cover support staff salaries. When we budgeted, we did not budget quite enough, so we're requesting to move money to cover that support staff. Then for number 9, this is for our ECD. This is our childcare, one of the childcare grants. And what we are doing here is moving money so that we can fully utilize those funds, as well as move it into the line items that is required by the grant. And then the next one, what this one is, this is for our Idea B preschool. We do have some carryover or some encumbrances that were done last year. For carryover, we're just moving money to cover those encumbrances for this year. And then finally, we did receive a comprehensive support and improvement grant, $51,000 per school to improve
Per
the
school?
charter. Yes, ma'am.
Awesome.
I'm sorry.
Per
Not per
school,
school. There's not all schools, sorry.
right, if the designated.
We were like,
So
great.
if the schools were designated, had a designation that was not traditional on the NM Vistas, the PED rating system, they received school improvement money.
I went back to when I was principal of Smith School. I would have loved.
Yeah. Yeah.
So therefore, how many?
So DIS is a traditional school, DHS is a traditional school, Early College is a traditional school, and Bell is a traditional school. So we have 4 schools that are traditional schools, and the others have some type of designation and are working on a school improvement plans.
Okay.
So what this is doing is actually allocating the money for the charter. So the charter received 51,000 as well as the carryover from their last grant. So that's the total of 76,000 that we are allocating to the charter. The other allocations were done in the consent agenda. And with that, I will stand for any questions.
Any
What makes
questions?
what makes them a traditional school?
It's based on their scores. They use several factors. So one is their assessment data, graduation rates. Okay, let me see if I can name them all. Attendance, and then they look at all the subgroup data as well. So for example, Chaparral is, I believe, ATSI for their English language learners. So that means that their English language learners didn't perform at the same level, and now they have to do a plan specifically addressed to that. Columbus is a CSI, and that is for performance. And Andrew, please jump in if I miss something, because I'm doing this from memory. and Red Mountain is also for performance, which means it's in general. They were not at the level they were supposed to be academically on this 22 testing, right? In 22. This is based on 22 data, not even the recent data. So we expect to get new data. Well, they said August. We're almost out. We're almost out of this month. And then we're supposed to have new ratings by December. So I just don't know. 22 was a rough year for everyone. It was right after the pandemic.
Right.
So
Mhm.
yeah. So
Yeah.
good question.
Other questions? Okay.
Oh, we need a motion. Sorry. I'll make a motion that we approve bars 5 through 11.
We have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Would you call for the vote, please?
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Orozco. Yes. Mrs. Paez.
Yes.
Mrs. Cameron.
Yes.
Mrs. Hernandez.
Yes.
Mr. Crowe, yes.
Okay, the motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Madam President, members of the board, now for your consideration and approval is the proclamation declaring this September as Attendance Awareness Month. And Mayor Hasso and Andrew Wyman, we just, the city just approved it. And we're all joining together to support attendance.
Well, good evening, Madam President, board members, Superintendent Chavez. So as Superintendent Chavez stated, on Tuesday night at our regular city council meeting, we did go ahead and approve the proclamation. And again, it was unanimous. The council agreed that partnering up with the schools for attendance awareness was something that we all wanted to do. And of course, we've always tried to work with the schools and support them. And so we did on Tuesday night pass the proclamation declaring the month of September as Attendance Awareness Month. So with your permission, I'll go ahead and read it for you. Whereas families and parents are their child's first teacher and lay the foundation for the importance of school attendance. Whereas promoting attendance requires noticing as soon as possible when students start to miss too much school, engage students and families, and identifying needs or supports and early intervention resources. Whereas showing up for school is an opportunity for students to build routines that creates a sense of safety and belonging, increases engagement, and develops trusting relationships with peers, teachers, and school staff that increase engagement and motivate them to participate in learning. Whereas taking a positive problem-solving approach to reducing absenteeism requires expanding data to include reviewing chronic absence and attendance data availability of working contact information for families, connectivity such as devices and internet, and positive relationships. Whereas improving attendance and reducing absenteeism takes schools, families, and community partners working together to identify and address factors contributing to students missing school, particularly a lack of digital access, mental and physical health services, and access to basic economic supports, including food and housing. Whereas partnering with students and families to monitor attendance, as well as understand and address barriers to attendance requires building and sustaining caring relationships and regular communications in the home language spoken by families. Whereas ensuring an equal opportunity to learn requires data to detect high levels of absenteeism and missed opportunities to learn by school, grade, and student population. Now therefore be it resolved that the city of Deming stands with the nation and Deming Public Schools in recognizing the month of September as Attendance Awareness Month. We hereby commit to focusing on reducing absenteeism and addressing the factors that cause students to miss school in order to ensure that all children an equitable opportunity to learn and grow and thrive academically, emotionally, and socially. We recognize that we must work together to engage students and families and send the message that learning can and must continue.
Specifically, we will, number one, affirm the importance of the family's role in ensuring their kids show up for school every day. Two, make it clear that improving student attendance, including daily attendance, is in a consistent manner, and monitoring absenteeism and continue to be a top priority. Number three, engage students, families, educators, and the broader community, including civic, elected leaders, local businesses, clergy members, and nonprofit organizations in working together to identify and remove barriers to getting to school and to develop meaningful, solution-focused systems to ensure all children and youth are engaged in a positive learning environment. In testimony whereof the mayor of the city of Deming has hereunto subscribed his name and has caused the official seal of the city of Deming to be hereunto affixed on this 15th day of August, 2023. And then we also added the next portion: in agreement with the contents of this proclamation, Deming Public Schools hereby affixes their signature as a witness of the declaration of this proclamation.
I wanted to say that we were, Superintendent Chavez and myself attended your meeting when you had this proclamation on your agenda, and we appreciated reaching out for us working together on this, because just one side working, but having the whole community part of it. And thank you for including our board and
Thank you.
Any discussion?
Just thank you for doing this. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Very helpful.
Thank you again for allowing us to partner with you on this.
Yes, at this time I would, unless there's other comments, I would entertain a motion for the approval of the proclamation declaring September 2023 as Attendance Awareness Month.
I'll make that motion. I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Would you call for the vote, please?
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Orozco? Yes. Mrs. Paez?
Yes.
Mrs. Cameron?
Yes,
Mrs. Hernandez?
Yes.
Mr. Crowe, yes.
thank you.
Can I just make a comment real quickly?
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to say that having experience in the school system, doing home visits and working with families, I understand how complex the issues are when it comes to attendance. And so I just want to appreciate all the people on the ground that are knocking on the doors and trying to pick all the phone calls and everything else that goes into building those relationships to bring students back. So just thank you guys. I know it's a lot of work.
Appreciate you recognizing them all, because it's
It's
a
a
whole
lot.
lot of different
It's-
people.
People have no idea.
Yes.
It's really,
It is.
yeah.
Thank you.
You bet. Thank you. Again, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.
You bet. Thank you.
It's official now.
Yes.
Okay, so moving along, Madam President, members of the board, item I is a consideration of an MOU, Memorandum of Understanding between Deming Public Schools and NEA Deming for an amendment to the collective bargaining agreement. And do you want to speak to it?
We have, like we told you previously, the misprint of the numbers in there for the buyback. So we had both numbers in there, so we just had to state that some would be stricken out. And then the other one is the state mandated that students now go to school, I believe it's 4.5 days, right?
They mandated hours, which required us to go an extra half day on Fridays for our pre-K program.
So NEA Deming basically, the teachers are worried. They don't know what that's gonna actually look like for them. We haven't talked to them specifically about it. We will though. And we didn't want to necessarily agree to a big change in the CBA without that discussion with them. So we've done an MOU instead to say that we agree with the district's plan right now. We will make contact with those teachers at the pre-K level and ask them specifics on what's going on. And if they say that it's that they're doing the best that they can with this new mandate, then we'll agree to some language that solidifies it. If they come to us with suggestions for improvement or something that they want the district to do, then we can go back to the district. And that's why we prefer to do an MOU on this specific issue, so that it's just for this year that we're saying, okay, we're gonna go with what the state said for now.
We don't have a lot of options.
Right.
Otherwise, there would be no pre-K and there'd be no teaching staff needed. So
Yeah.
we kind of have to figure that out. But yes, I mean, we absolutely, from my perspective, my position has always been, we want to improve everything we do. Like, we can always improve. And so we will do everything we can to continue to support, ensuring that people have time to do their planning, have time to do the work that they need to do. And pre-K specifically even has home visit requirements and things like that, as well as parent night. They have specific parent engagement hours that they're required to meet. So there's a whole lot that we've got to come together on so that we can advocate together. Because if districts and the union are advocating together at the legislative level, then we can ensure that we get what we need to do what we need so that our staff can do what they need. So I'm a huge advocate for making sure people have the time to do what they need to do to be great for their
And
kids.
that's part of it from our perspective, is that Ms. Chavez has done a really great job in meeting what the state is saying and then giving people as much as possibly can.
Yes.
And we want to let the district kind of try that out and then talk to people and say, okay, what's working, what isn't, then we can go from that.
Absolutely. So we would also agree that this needs to be approved so that we can get this done for this year.
I'll make a motion to approve the MOU between Deming Public Schools and NEA.
You have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Would you call for the vote, please?
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Roscoe? Yeah. Mrs. Paez?
Yes.
Mrs. Cameron?
Yes,
Mrs. Hernandez?
Yes.
Mr. Crowe, yes.
thank you. The motion
Thank
carries.
you, Charity, for presenting. Madam President, members of the board, that was a Freudian.
We're just on Jack.
Wishful thinking.
J, consideration and approval of a retainer agreement with Walsh Gallegos Law. While the agreement is less than the 60,000 that we normally bring, they are the only law firm that does a retainer program, which we really appreciate, because for $1,000 a year, we get a lot of free calls and a lot of free, it's just part of what they do. And then they provide a free subscription to their school law with Walsh Gallegos, New Mexico. And they are incredibly responsive to our needs. And so we just wanted to bring this before you because it is different. The other attorneys charge you for every minute you're on the phone with them. They don't. If they have to do additional work, but if we call them, which we do frequently, to get guidance on something, it is generally no charge.
That's really,
It is a
Really
very
is.
helpful service.
Mhm.
And so I just wanted to bring it to you as transparency. We do have other law firms we work with. It's just different. This one is just different in the way that the charges happen, I guess.
right, because most of them do charge every phone call, every.
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
who are we talking to here? So, we need to
I would like you to approve it.
to approve the, I'm kind of consideration, the approval of retainer agreement with Walsh Gallegos Law. Do we have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Mr. Crowe, will you take the vote, please?
Yes. ma'am. Mr. Rose? Yeah. Mrs. Paez?
Yes.
Mrs. Cameron?
Yes.
Mrs. Hernandez?
Yeah.
Mr. Crowe, yes.
The
Great,
motion
thank-
carries.
Thank you. So Madam President, members of the board, item K is the consideration and approval of the district asset certification.
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Chavez, you do have a listing of the district assets. We are required by the state auditor to have your certification of this. These are the assets that are $5,000 or more. And between technology and facilities, they did identify or did lay their eyes on every one of those assets. And so I am asking for your approval of that listing.
Okay, any questions? Or comments? Seeing none, I would entertain a vote for the approval of a district asset certification.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay, would you do the roll for us, Mr. Crowe? I
Yes.
mean, the vote.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Roscoe? Yes. Mrs. Paez?
Yes.
Mrs. Cameron?
Yes,
Mrs. Hernandez?
Yes.
Mr. Crowe, yes.
thank you. The motion carries. Thank you.
So Madam President, members of the board, the last action item is item L, and it's consideration and approval of, it does say the Geo Library grant. I just want to, can you go through and
Make sure.
I just want to make sure it's the right one, because, keep going. So let me review it very quickly before we. Keep going. So this is their lease agreement with PSCOC, which is different than a Geo Library grant. So that's why I wanted to, when I read that, it wasn't matching in my head, and I was like, wait. Will you go into the Deming Cesar Chavez one? So this first one is the Geo Library grant for Deming Cesar Chavez. As their charter authorizer, we are required to approve this consideration, and it is just library geo bond money that is for the charter school. Item 2 is not on here, so we won't be able, we'll have to add it to next month. Okay. So the only item we will be, I'm asking you to approve is the actual geo bond for the $4,128, which is for their library. They can use it for any type of library type materials or technology for the library, or textbook, not book textbooks, but trade books, that sort of thing.
And for both the high school and or schools and these.
Am I missing that? That wasn't the lease agreement. That is for the Deming High School. Okay. Okay, I'm backwards, because that is almost the exact amount for Deming High, for Cesar Chavez's lease as well, at 92,000. So I am confused. I'm sorry. Let's back up. Can anybody erase all that? When I saw that 92,000, I was like, there's no way. That's got to be the lease. Sorry. Okay. Let me get this right this time. So these are GeoBond library grants that are, one is for Deming Cesar Chavez, one is for Deming Public Schools. Okay. And we'll serve the libraries in, I just read the lease not long ago too, that came out. Okay, and this is on record, right?
There's video.
And there's even video.
We'll be considering that.
Yes, on that evaluation process. Wow, it is almost exactly the same amount.
Are
So
there
that
any
is very-
questions or comments? I would entertain a motion for the approval of the GLB Library Grant for Deming Public Schools and Deming Cesar Chavez Charter High School.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
We have a
Thank
motion.
you.
Mr. Crowe, will you call for the vote, please?
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Orozco? Yes. Mrs. Paez?
Yes.
Mrs. Cameron?
Yes,
Mrs. Hernandez?
Yes.
Mr. Crowe, yes.
thank you. The motion carries.
Thank you, thank you. So let's move on to superintendent's reports. Just have a few things to share with you. Mr. Turner sent the exceptional students handbook. Mr. Science, do you have anything that you would like to say?
Well, I do want to say, first of all, the Walsh and Gallegos are awesome to us because they also are very important to putting this handbook together and then sending it down to the Southwest REC, and then they share it with the Fed directors. And so again, this is just a handbook that is kind of like the Bible for exceptionalities, and it's already being used in the 30 days that I've been on the job. I've already looked at it since I got it.
The 437
Have already
pages.
started to look at the decisions that are coming up with things that have already passed. So
Can you tell me what 300.43 is?
It's a test.
Well, you've been there for
So-
how long now?
I'll tell you that the indicator 13 is one of the ones that
Yeah.
I did notice is that the federal government is asking for the age to be 16. And so New Mexico is giving more, so we put that age level at 14. So at 14, we start the transitional process for our kids, and so we're actually giving them more services.
So
We
the
don't give less, but we
Right.
give more.
So the really nice thing about this handbook is that it gives you the federal regulation, it gives you New Mexico rule, and then what the procedures need to be. So it really helps us organize the structure of how we do things. So,
So I don't think there was anything new that they put in other than some hyperlinks that take you right back to the table.
into the law, right? Right. So
That's great.
So there's no approval or anything. We just wanted to share it with you as kind of our guidance. It's what drives everything we do for our
And I
students.
know one of the hot items this summer is our evaluations. And so we had a teacher that actually called and said, so if I give an assessment to a student, does that mean they have to get tested? Well, no, it's not it. It's that you're working on curriculum and trying to help them. So no, we don't have to. You evaluate it.
Right.
So again, it's very handy and again, very thorough.
Yes, very.
And we thank you again for
Yes.
being in that position
Yeah.
and bringing your
Yes, yes,
expertise to that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So I wanted to give you an update also on enrollment. As of today, we have 4,794 students who have shown up
Wow.
at least once. So we're missing some
Yeah.
because on the 40th day last year, we actually had 4,954 students. So we're down about 160 kids right now. And that equates to almost $1 million. It's
Oh, wow.
$998,000.
Do you
So-
think though that with us starting so early that there'll not be?
Later.
I don't know. I feel like every day we're getting a few more because I think when we had our first enrollment numbers last week, they were even lower. We were down about 260 kids is where we kind of thought we had started. Our projections though, based on, so 40th day is usually lower than 80th and 120, or it was last year. So we ended at 5,009 last year. That was our average between the three snapshots. So for that, we're down about 200. But like I said, we're, 4954 was where we were at, and we gained 101 students through the year. So we don't know, but September is Attendance Awareness Month, so we're also going after, the other thing is that the state does require us to what's drop kids if they don't show up. So we can't keep them on the books. If they don't show up that first day, they're dropped and they have to get re-enrolled. So I think every day we're getting a few more, but it's not huge numbers. When I look at the schools, individually, Batan's down about 13 kids. Bell is only down 1. Chaparral is down almost 40 students. Columbus is down about 40 students. Memorial is down about 30 students.
Wow.
RST is down about 20 students, 23 students. Deming Intermediate is down 9 students. Red Mountain is down about 50 students. But we knew we had a smaller class moving through too. So I think Mr. Sines was praying for that smaller class to come through because he was pretty big for a long time. The high school is down about 9 students, but Members Valley, interestingly, is up 20 students. So that's really cool. Kids are wanting to be there. Early college is down 2 students. So it's a little bit here and there and a kind of a whole class in some places. So
Are we doing something to look from and stuff? Or-
yes. So Mrs. Parnell and Mr. Wyman, what are we doing to find them?
So, and you guys do that.
I know, because I know she's doing the work, right?
All of our success liaisons are taking those phone calls, and we have some principals that are doing home visits, and CSAs are going out and trying to locate the kids and find them. But like Mrs. Chavez said, some have said they're coming, but they didn't show up that first day, so they were dropped and not coming.
What's the likelihood that the families moved away? Is that pretty high or?
Some do, and there are some in Moody County that are still here that need to get in school. Kind of a mixed bag, I think. I've been working with them, meeting with them every other week so far. And I know they're making a lot of phone calls, they're engaging with those families. They feel like they're making better contact this year with the families, and I don't know if that's because maybe we had a longer summer. I don't know what the reason is, but they have reported that more parents are answering the phone and then telling their kids this year, which is a good thing.
Right.
Unfortunately, a lot of families have blocked the phone number for the district when we call, but they're having good success. So that's
Great.
There's some positive news. It'll continue to go.
So we'll just give you an update at the next board. We'll keep you posted. But we're watching it like daily to see what's going on and trying to get connections. Miss-
I had a question about funding. So you said the snapshot is 40, 80, and 120. So when does the funding change as the snapshot changes, or is it locked into the number of students we received at the beginning?
They will shore us up sometime in January. Right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it will hit this year because they'll look at our numbers and they'll start to, well, they usually change the unit value in January too. So
we'll
yeah,
fill it in.
we'll definitely fill it next year. I mean, because it is prior year funding. Yes. Yes.
Oh, I see.
So for the students that we at least believe are still living in Luna County and haven't shown up to school yet, are we reporting that to JPO or CYFD or something? For somebody to go knock on their door?
Can you ask that question one more time?
So for the students that you still believe are in Luna County but aren't showing up, or their parents blocked your phone, are we reporting that to JPO or to Protective Services?
Success Act passed, I want to say 2020, something like that, and 2021, somewhere in there. And it's changed the whole process there to where it's less punitive and it's more please come kind of thing.
Okay.
We're doing home visits. We already met, Martin, Joe and myself met with the JPO the other day. We got some clear expectations for what they want in order to be able to kind of work with those kids. One of the things, for instance, if we drop a kid because we have to at 10 days, they won't even look at that kid, which doesn't quite add up to me.
Yeah.
Because if we know they're in the county and we know that they're supposed to be in school, to me, they should be, but their guidance from their law.
Yeah.
You know, that they're not gonna do anything.
And we have to
We're doing what we
adopt everything before we can even refer, and they have a large checklist that they will kick it back if you haven't checked off.
It's gotten really tough.
Wow, yeah,
They're gonna try, I think, a lot of ways as well, so I don't think they don't wanna help, I think it's.
yeah, I'm sure that's true.
Could you send us a list of all, I'd be interested to see the checklist.
The JPO check,
Yes,
kind of
yeah.
yeah, will you share that with me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And I'll get that over to you guys.
If I'm right, I could be anything else. They could mean what we wanted. Sorry.
Yeah.
I've gotten around over the years and it doesn't need to be that complicated.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Put the parents in jail, then.
I mean, you can always make an educational neglect report. I don't know what would happen, but
Okay, that's,
yeah,
You can read.
yeah.
okay. Well, we will keep you posted and keep giving updates. We're gonna keep
Yeah.
pounding the pavement though. Regarding, I just wanted to update you on some safety things because there will be, well, just one safety. You'll see a change. We're still working on all I think we have vegetables almost done. I think we're waiting on some doors that were ordered. The doorbells are all working well. I think we continue to look at and everybody's practicing drills. But we are going to add portable metal detectors at the high school. And I just brought this to share with you and have for our events. So that will be something that we'll start to see at the public events, that there'll just be a walkthrough metal detector.
At all schools?
For events. They'll be at the high school. This will be at the high school and like the football field and that sort of thing.
Okay.
I expect those to come in, I think. Benny's not here anymore, right? Early this semester. So like by September. Yeah, by the end of September, we should have them. We'll just have the one set right now. And then we'll go from there and decide.
So it'll be at DHS?
It'll be at the high school. Yes, DHS.
Okay, and
you-
not members, or will members go
Well,
through
they
there
all
too?
go through
or-
the same space, so we'll start.
Okay,
So the
'cause it
kids
used
come
to be
in through that
separate.
middle area at the high school, that gate, and then they go into the gym. So everybody comes in through the gate.
Okay,
And then they go they get funneled into the gym. I'm trying to remember. That's why I'm looking at you, Charity.
The gate, the gym is straight in front of you.
Right.
You go to the right, you go to the high school, go to left, go to Home Packet, which is River Valley and.
Yes, so
Yeah.
everybody, kids will go through there, like everybody. And then the handhelds will be also at the events, and our security will have those.
okay,
So, and it's just another layer of protection. We're just trying to implement things that are considered national best practices. And just continue to ensure the public that safety is our priority, and we're gonna do everything possible to ensure that we can protect people. So I just wanted you to be aware. Any questions? Okay. And then just a couple of announcements more than anything from the superintendent. Our Region 8 meeting, Mrs. Cameron volunteered us for, so we'll be hosting that on September 26th.
I don't remember volunteering.
better write that down. Charles remembers.
So we will be.
I think I'm on vacation.
Probably.
We will be inviting the regional members for Region 8 for the School Board Association, and there's an agenda already set. I think we get a small piece of that agenda, and so reserve that time now and be there.
Can you say what day it is again?
9/26,
Okay.
September 26th, and it's 5:30 to 8:30.
Okay.
Correct?
It'll be at the high school.
And
Okay.
yes, it'll be at the high school, and our culinary arts kids are gonna cook for us.
Oh,
And we'll
great.
have,
We need decoration.
What day was it again?
September 26th, Tuesday.
Oh, Jesus, perfect, okay.
Yeah.
We're gonna have the band there or something.
We'll have band, we'll have,
Last time they had that little bell
Yes.
fire or whatever.
Yeah.
yes, we will have,
And they're singing.
celebrations and all sorts of great things happening. And then,
Did you see that smile?
so,
Excited. Nice.
so Mr. Turner will be reaching out to see if you're attending, getting your RSVP, making sure and he'll be reaching out to all the regional superintendents. And then we have board elections coming up. So it's just a reminder that August 29th is the day to go register, to sign up and declare that you're running. Districts 3, 4, and 5 are the seats that are up for election.
It's you, Olivia and Bobby.
Yeah. And then we have also with the elections in November, we'll go to the public with the SB 9 2 mil levy. The 2 mil, I don't remember the last time it was done, but it's been a while. 4 years ago. So the 2 mil pays for things like okay, Leslie, I need your help. Facilities, right. But it could be furniture, it could be technology, it can be, and it won't raise taxes. So we'll go ahead, it'll just be a continuation of the 2 mil levy.
Is that sheet kind of,
This is our basically our plan. This is how we'll get the word out. We went through, Jessica and I sat down and started working through a timeline and all the tasks that needed to be done.
Okay.
So
so mainly if someone asks, it's furniture?
we will have that for you at the next
Okay,
board meeting,
good.
exactly what it's for. I just wanted you to know that it was coming.
Right,
Yeah, this is just our planning document.
I don't need that.
No, I need that because I have jobs to do. And I believe, the only other thing I wanted to share with you is that the project-based learning continues to move forward. Our cohort 1 is being trained next week and administrators continue their training on September 1st. So we are trucking along and I'm excited when we have our public presentations at the grades and in the classes that do projects. We should have something in December to invite you to.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, when you're through.
No, I'm done. That's it. That's all that's on the
How-
list.
How was the feedback on the opening, starting to school earlier than usual?
Well, actually, it wasn't earlier. We were about 10 days later than we were the year before.
Uh-huh.
It is earlier than like 5 years ago for secondary.
Uh-huh.
It's earlier by maybe 5 days. I think you used to start around the 7th or the 8th.
Yeah, that's what I was.
Yeah, but I think because it wasn't last summer, 2022, it's been good. They liked that they had until August 1st before the kids came back. Parents have said they appreciated it because the high school especially, their kids work a lot in the summertime.
Mhm.
And so I think overall, August 1st was a nice start date. Does anybody else have any feedback on that? That you've heard?
Longest summer that elementary people have had since 2017.
It is the longest summer. No, since 2012, you weren't here. I was the first school to have K5, K3 plus.
Some schools have, yeah. but-
2012 no, 2007, 8 is when we started that. I left in 2012. So yeah, it has been a long time since elementary schools have had until that time to start.
Okay. Anything else from the board?
So then announcements for you guys.
You have anything you want to add? Thank you all for being here.
Hanging with us.
Hanging with us and I know it's not like summer. It's a long, long day, but we appreciate you being here and being available to all of us. And I have not really heard any thing about bad things, I don't want to use the word bad, what word am I trying, trouble things as the start of school, it seems to have gone very, very, so I know
I think since
everyone
The pandemic, it's been the smoothest.
in the
yeah.
schools and up here in Central, wherever, you've all worked hard and
Yes.
we thank you for that. And appreciate everything that you're doing. So with that, do we have any requests for agenda items? No. Okay, well, if not, the next regular board meeting will be September the 21st. And the meeting will be at the Emmy Shockley Administration Building, right where we are now. So with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that. Second that.
Okay, is there anyone opposed? Then the motion, okay, I'll just say.